Hey everyone, it's Jack here. Let's talk about Final Fantasy, shall we? I mean, Final Fantasy has been around for what, since the 80s? It was one of the first in a long running franchise that has garnered a massive fan base all over the world. Um, but let's talk about something more specific. Let's talk about main characters. Main characters are, of course, the protagonists of the story. They help. Well, of course, the story revolves around them, and every other character in your party or team, whatever, they get brought along for the ride. And sometimes they have their own story. Each game has its own unique characters, qualities, and personality. Let's take, for example, in my Final Fantasy VI. It's considered by many to be the pinnacle of the series because not only does it have a fantastic cast of characters, but each and every character, save for maybe one or two, in your entire party, has their own individual storyline, which is amazing. I mean, you don't see that very often in Final Fantasy games, especially when it's successful and fantastic as six. Not to mention, six had, in my honest opinion, the coolest and most awesome villain to ever grace a console, Kefka Palazzo, also known to many as the Court Jester from Hell. Maybe I'm biased, but oh well. Now let's talk about, though, there's two main characters that I really want to set my focus on. Those are Tidus from Final Fantasy X and Vaan from Final Fantasy XII. Why am I talking about them, you may ask? Well, let's think. Um, let's talk about Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X takes place in a futuristic world known as Spira. Well, actually, it starts out in Xanarkand, then you go to this place called Spira, and the whole game revolves around Yuna and her pilgrimage to defeat Sin and everything. And Tidus, the main character, finds out that Sin is his dad and everything. He had big daddy issues or whatever, or yeah, issues with his old man. Though herein lies the problem. Um, in 10, the story does not revolve hardly around Tidus. It revolves almost completely around Yuna. Completely. Honestly, if th- this is the biggest problem with this game. For one, because the main character really has no individual storyline. He has no unique qualities outside of whining and complaining about everything. To me, at least. The only thing that connects him to the storyline is Sin being his old man, and that is it. Well, aside from wanting Yuna, but that's it. The entire story, at least uh, over 90% of the story, is revolves around Yuna and defeating Sin. Tidus is just that guy to, yeah. Um, that's the problem with Final Fantasy X. When you make a Final Fantasy game, you have the story revolve around your main character, not a side character. If if people are to notice this, uh, but when you have the story revolve around somebody that's not your main character, then make them the main character. I mean, it would kind of make sense, wouldn't it? Okay, now let's go to Vaan from Final Fantasy XII. Final Fantasy XII, in my opinion, is probably one of the best and coolest Final Fantasy games I've played. This is just my opinion. Um, all things considered, it does have a lot of cool, unique, really good combat system, and it's pretty complex. It reminds me of like the junction system from Final Fantasy VIII. Um, but here's there 12 suffers from the almost exact same problem as 10. Vaughn is not the main character. I mean, yeah, the developers and the designers and everyone keep telling he's the main character, yet he has no involvement in the story at all. Guys, the whole point of a main character is to tell their story and is to be involved with the game storyline overall. But does Vaan have any unique qualities or outstanding features in the storyline? No. He doesn't do a damn thing. He's just that guy that you can pretty much forget about. My personal opinion, it's pretty much the only difference between Vaan and Tidus from 10 is Tidus actually has a small bit of connection to the storyline, whereas Vaan has absolutely no connection at all. He doesn't do a damn thing. He has no involvement in the storyline. Honestly, in my opinion, if they were to make a decent main character for 12, they should have at least made it either Ash or maybe Bosch. Bosch would have been a really cool main character because at least he did have some connection to the storyline because his twin brother Debronth was one of the Judge Magisters, or hell, even Balthier and Fran. Vaan is more like a side character that you just toss away. I mean, honestly, a main character? No, 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 no. Vaan is not a main character. When you have a character that has no involvement in the storyline and you call him the main character, that's a big problem. That's when you're running out of ideas because I just don't get it sometimes because Vaan is just completely stupid. He's just eye candy for girls. That's pretty much all he is, at least in my opinion. Um, Vaan is just not that. He's just not a main character at all. I mean, I may have been repeating myself a lot, but still, um, the whole storyline in 12 revolves around Ash regaining her kingdom and becoming the Queen of Dalmasca. Of course, does Vaan do anything to help with that? No, not a damn thing. He's just there. Yeah, it would have been interesting if Balthier or Fran were the main characters of this game. Or again, like I just said, Bosch would have been actually would have been a better main character for this game. But why Vaan is anybody's guess. Guys, honestly, when you make a main character for a Final Fantasy game, have them involved in the story. At least Tidus had some involvement with Sin, and Sin being his old man. But with Vaan, he's just there. He's just that guy you know. He's not really outstanding in any way. I mean, he doesn't stand out. It would have been nice to play as a different character for 12, but speaking of main characters, have you guys noticed that how few? Well, actually, no, I'm changing topics here. Shut up, MSN. How very few female main characters we have in the series. I mean, we only have the only ones I know of are Terra Branford from Final Fantasy VI, and most recently, Lightning from Final Fantasy 13. Yeah, I'm going to address that in a later video because I really don't have. Well, I may have time for it now, but I'm going to close this out. So this is xJack. I'll see you guys later. Take care.